this time, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Wallingford Inland Wetlands Watercourses Commission to order. The date is February 7th. The time is 7 p.m. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Eileen McKean.
Nick Kern.
Jim Vitale.
Deborah Phillips.
Michael Caruso.
Jeffrey Necchio.
Jim Heilman.
Erin O'Hare, environmental planner.
Consideration of the minutes. Now, Aaron handed out a memo or a sheet tonight's meeting. These are the minutes that I felt were not in the December 6th minutes. It has to do with talking about the cease and correct order for 55 Kendracky Lane. The first thing, what was in the minutes was the first order, that's the intent. I felt that there was more to it, indicating that this did answer one of the conditions to the cease and correct order. So I'll entertain, if anybody has any questions on this, we can discuss it. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve with this inserted at the appropriate location.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes from the regular meeting on Wednesday, December 6, 2023 be accepted as submitted with the corrections on the paper, on the memo from Aaron.
Second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion?
Who was the seconder? Thank you.
Okay. All right, the voting people tonight are Nick and I, Debbie, Mike, and Jeff. I believe that's correct, right? Yeah. Okay, motion made and second to call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Mike?
Abstain.
Jeff?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, going on to the minutes of January 3rd. Any comments or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion regarding the minutes of January 3rd.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes from the regular meeting on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024 be accepted as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jeff?
Abstain.
Yes. Okay. Going under old business, A18 12.2, 32 Barnes Road, Roland Industries bond release.
Actually, there's a little bit of movement on that. I had a conversation with the fellow in charge of the property there, and they're going to make a bigger design. They understand that it's failing, and it's going to be significantly bigger, what they're putting in.
So they're not ready to release.
No, but at least they finally recognized and got an engineer to design a bigger discharge area. So that's good.
Okay. A18 1.2 801 North Colony Road, Beaumont Road. They're requesting a table on this motion or this application tonight. I have no trouble tabling it, but I would like the commission to take special notice to the memos that Janice, our town attorney, drafted regarding this application. I mean, there was things addressed that it was a 6-year bond. It's only in the 5.5 years. I mean, we haven't given them a violation. We may have told them what we wanted. Have we given them an order? We haven't given them an order what to do. So if it comes up next month, unless they have something more concrete, we'll have the same discussion again next month. So I'll take a motion to table.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table the A18-1.2 North Colony Road and 6 Beaumont Road.
Second?
Second.
Call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, going on to receipt of new applications. This application is A24 1.1, 1136 Durham Road, Sunwood Development. It started out as a request for administration approval. There's been a lot of interest in it. It passes our regulation regarding 20,000 square feet of impervious surface. So, and then I understand there's a petition submitted. Aaron has a petition submitted that come on down, Bob. Come on down, Bob. Aaron has a petition that has been submitted that flags out the requirement of a public hearing. So so there's no administration approval. There's a public hearing, and I think we'll schedule it for next month, March. But I've given the applicant a few minutes to give us a quick view of this project. Yes, sir.
Just microphone on?
I think so. Just bring it up close to you and speak loud.
First, I was not aware that there was a request.
Name, address.
Sorry.
Yeah, you've got to be louder.
Okay. Robert Wiedenman from Sunwood Development. I'm the owner of both the property and the applicant today. I was not aware until just this moment that there was a request for a public hearing. So I do understand that we have to go through that process. So that kind of takes the process of administrative approval off the table. So I don't really have anything to talk about. I can give you the full presentation next month, but if you prefer to just have a quick overview of what the application is, I'm happy to discuss that with you.
I don't want a full presentation because you can say that for the public hearing when the public is here. Its choice is really yours if you want to give a short view of what's going on and why you thought administration approval was appropriate. I know you mentioned there isn't any actual wetlands on site, but there is the impervious surface. So the choice is yours.
Yeah, I can just give you a quick overview, but again, we'll probably have to do it again next month anyway, so I won't take a lot of your time. I know you've got a long agenda, so
Good.
I'll just give you a quick overview of the property. If you're familiar with the property, it's on the corner of Durham Road.
Do you want to set a map up there
Yep,
on
we
the
can do that.
the easel?
Yep, that'd be fine.
And remember, Bob, this is primarily a wetland issue, so stick with the wetlands issues of it. Mike's not on?
Little green light is. Gotta-
No, it's not on.
I've seen it.
Try that?
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, the property is located on Durham Road at the intersection of Grebe Road, right in this area. It's a 3.5 acre parcel. It was, years ago, you might know it as a Christmas tree farm. There was a gentleman that owned the property, George Meller, who had Christmas trees there for many years. It's generally flat in nature, sloping slightly from the high point on the back side of the property towards Durham Road, towards the intersection. There are no wetlands on the property, and there are no wetlands in the vicinity of the property, say in excess of 500 feet. I think there's some in this neighborhood way up in this area, across the other side of the street. The drainage flow, again, is sort of towards Route 91. It is in our watershed district, so that's another thing we'll need to address next month, but we have already taken care of that. And I don't think that really affects the wetland application, but it is something we need to address for planning and zoning. The water currently, and as proposed with the development, after it goes through a detention basin, will discharge into the town system, which goes down Durham Road and discharges onto the I-91 property that the state owns. From there, it just goes off the map, but it runs about 600 feet to the north to a drain. There's a grass swale running north, and then from there, it discharges across the highway and then eventually into an intermittent brook and into a wetland area on the other side of 91. So the reason for the request originally for the administrative approval was the fact that we have no wetlands. We have, in our opinion, no impact on wetlands. We have several hundred feet, probably over 1,000 feet between our system and we would get to anything that would be regulated. Aaron's position, and I'm not going to negotiate whether it should be administratively approved, because it doesn't matter at this point, but that she felt that it was things like a shed or some minor activity that did not have any wetlands or significant wetland activities that would be done administratively. My feeling was that if we can't show that there's an impact, then why would we necessarily have to go through this whole process? Aaron was concerned that I was maybe being a little obstinate in my request. And I didn't mention at the beginning of this, this is a project that's being designed under the 830G statute, which is affordable housing. So what it allows us to do is increase the density in return for deeding at least 30% of the units as affordable under the statute. And when we do that, it's very difficult to meet those affordability requirements with all the regulations and rules and costs that go into building homes. And so my obstinance is the fact that I'm trying to do everything I can to drive the cost down. And that comes from the regulatory process, it comes from buying the property, it comes from designing the homes that we're going to build on the property, and every part of it along the way, the financing of the property. So this is just one aspect of it, and my feeling was if there was not an impact, why would we spend a lot of time and money going through this process? Unfortunately, it sounds like the neighbors have decided we're going to spend a little more money than, in my opinion, may be necessary, but again, that's the way the rules are written. Erin did point out in her memo from earlier this month, or maybe the end of last month, that maybe the rules related to the administrative approval should be looked at more carefully. She mentioned a lot of things about intent of that that part of your regulations. And while I'm completely willing to accept whatever rules are in your regulations, when we start going to intent, it becomes very, very difficult for any applicant to know what the intent is. Your intent may be different than, each of you members of the commission could have a different intent. Aaron's idea of what the intent of the regulation could be different than mine or my engineers or my attorneys. And that was really what frustrated me getting to this point. Again, I'm just putting that out there for general conversation that you folks might want to look at it in the future as to clarifying what the intent of that regulation is. And I hate using that word intent because it's just so subjective. That's really all I have with the application. We can go into the details of our stormwater management plan, how we're going to handle erosion controls during construction at next month's meeting. So I won't spend any more time unless anyone has questions for me tonight.
No, I don't. I think anybody have any simple questions? This is just an overview of what's going to come ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to, is that on? Okay. I would just like to say that although there are no wetlands on there at all, none even nearby, one of the things that this wetland commission has done is to put into its regulations the impervious surface, which I'm sure is one of the things that calls for this. And usually that implies to large areas of impervious surface, especially if they're new, let alone a 1,000-acre parking lot adding 20 acres or something. But what we have here is a unique thing in the area. The density of this increases the impervious surface much more than normal in this particular area. And our commission is obligated through our regulations to look at where is that water going? Is there sufficient areas downstream to accept this not huge but sudden increase to the area? What is the sensitivity downstream? And so I think these are very salient questions that the commission would like to have a little bit of a handle on, considering the magnitude of this application. So I think it's a good example of why we have that in our regulations and could perhaps be clarified for future utilization.
Are you aware of the regulations for a public hearing as far as what's required by you to do, what needs to be done?
I think I am, but actually I do have a question related to that.
I'd save it for Erin and let her give you a copy of what the new regulations, requests that you come up, present us with.
Yep.
Because they have changed and it's gotten a little touchy, a little more demanding on certain items as far as wildlife and, stormwater discharge and that. So I would.
My question tonight was going to be if it was not going to be done administratively, whether or not the board was going to decide, or the commission was going to decide on the significance of the activity. I don't know if that's still necessary as part of the process, even though there is a public hearing because of the public request, or does the significance still need to be done? And I'm not clear on that, and we can certainly clarify that between now and next month's meeting. And I would assume because it's a public hearing, we'll still have to comply with those same rules that we'd have as if it were a significant activity.
I would think personally that would just wait and do it all at once because part of the public hearing is going to be a significant activity either way, if it was done administratively or not administratively. So that issue still has to be addressed, but once you provide us with all the information on the public hearing, then that should answer a lot of our questions.
Yeah. Had the commission decided that it was going to take a full application and not be approved administratively, I was going to request a discussion about significance. The fact that there's a public hearing, I agree with you. I don't think it's necessary to make that decision tonight. We can talk about it next month. But we'll come prepared as if it's a public hearing under the significant activity rules.
Okay. Anybody else? We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Next month.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, if I could clarify, there's three.
Speak up, Aaron. I can't hear you.
Mr. Wiedemann doesn't have to do all the 8 reports required for a significant impact activity unless this commission declares it so. There's 2 other ways we get public hearings. One is the significant impact activity declaration, then you get triggers a public hearing. The other way is if the chairman and the commissioners decide it is in the interest of public interest. And the third way is if somebody organizes and get a petition of 25 or more residents signing a petition, which was handed in today. So it triggers a public hearing. In the regulations, it doesn't specify, that doesn't trip 8 reports. The petition itself doesn't trip anything. It just requires a public hearing. Mr. Wiedemann could present his full presentation. But Nick does bring up a good point, because, on March 6th, if you all, after hearing the presentation, you decide, hey, this is a significant impact activity, then he's got to do the 8 reports. The next
Well,
month.
you can't determine significant activity tonight anyway.
Right,
So let's move on.
right, but I would say that, my personal opinion is he wouldn't have to do the 8 reports.
What's that?
The 8 different reports, technical reports that are required for a significant impact
He
activity.
doesn't need those.
Not tonight, maybe he
No.
will, after you hear the presentation, you might decide he does need those. So,
He's trying to expedite this application to move forward. So he wants you to provide him with a list of things that's required for a public hearing through petition or whatever. If one of those petitioners stands up and says, I want to know a wildlife study out there, how many turtles are in the area, then it goes back to 0 again because he's got to go another month to find out how many turtles are sitting out there. So give him a list of things that are required with a public hearing. He'll address those issues and we can move forward with this. It's that simple. You don't have to tie anything else into it. Just give him a list of things that's required for a public hearing. And I understand what you're saying, that you've got 3 ways of doing it, but the most best way would be to answer all the questions in the next month, so when he comes in front of us next month, we can make a decision on it. We can significant activity it, and we can maybe even vote on it, because we've had it for 30 days. Does that make sense?
okay, I can meet with Mr. Wiedemann, we can go over what all should be in there. Yes.
Got it?
Yep, all set. Thank you very much,
Okay,
everyone.
thanks. Okay, application A24 1.2 507 Main Street, Aylesville has been withdrawn. Application A24 1.3 Evansville Avenue, City of Meriden, Markham Airport, 4 hangars. Aaron and I went over that and we granted it administration approval in January. Okay, you got application A24, 1.4, Long Hill Road Country Club. That's one of the ones you want to hand out tonight?
No, that one went out in the packet Friday night.
That went out in the packet?
Bob, I have something for you over here. It didn't go out in the packet Friday night? Oh, maybe, then it is one we have to hand out tonight.
Oh, yeah, it did in this little, there's no, okay, this Wallingford Country Club, I mean, it's just received tonight,
Right. You're receiving the
just-
application tonight.
and it's a unique request. If you can give about a 3-minute description of what it is.
Okay. The board of the country club a representative came to me and said, we don't really need a wetland permit, it's maintenance.
Forget about that. What are they doing?
Well,
What are
no,
they gonna
so
do?
there's this line in maintenance that I go out and, sometimes it's more extensive. Well, this is very extensive maintenance. What they're doing, it's a new thing in the world of golf courses. They beautify the streams by taking sod and wrapping it around the banks, let's say 6 or 8 feet on each side, and then down the banks and down the bottom. So the sod gets wrapped down the side. Now, these are very flat streams. These don't have, so they're very flat streams, like this, down the bottom. So, you got sod on the bottom coming up the other side. So I said, well, won't the grass just die? And actually, in this case, he says, no, basically the streams are full now. We've had so much rain, but half the year, at least, they're dry. They're pretty dry. So as a result, these dry streams tend to look, dingy and muddy because they dry up. So this is, it's being done in golf courses around New England now.
One thing that she said to me, they would have liked to do it this month or in March, and because the ground is still frozen, and it would be firm to work on. Well, that certainly isn't the case in Wallingford right now, and I would think with what they're going to do, there would probably be more torn up ground now than if they waited till golf time, but we'll see next month. Okay, and Fergie, application 24, 1.2 East Street. They're moving some loading dock around and some modifications down there.
That's on the table. There.
Okay. Application A24, 2.2 Barnes Road, Caneschi Humes Architects. Modification to the permit. Now, this is the police station building?
Police headquarters, yeah,
The new headquarters.
yes.
And do we have an application for that over
Yes.
here?
No?
Okay. Now, before we get into that next month, I want the commission to think about this. Aaron went over with me on what the application consists of. And the application consists of the retention pond, the temporary retention pond they put in, which, or sediment control pond, which some people disagree with because the sediment seals off the porous ground this area. But where they dug down, they had water coming out. They had more water. They couldn't control the water in this retention pond. So after Aaron had them pump it out into a filter bag, and with all the fooling around that they did and trying to correct it, they have determined that they're into the groundwater level. And it must be severe groundwater coming off of Barnes Hill and coming down towards Quinnipiac River. Now, I haven't seen the plan, but the best Aaron could explain to me that they want to put in a standpipe. And this standpipe, when it overflows or when the water gets too great, it's going to come down over top across the ground. My concern is that it's going to get into the brook that runs behind the movie theater. and it's going to add a tremendous amount of increased water to the movie theater. I think it may have an effect on Mr. Peretta's property. I think that it's going to have effect on the movie theater. I think you've seen some articles on the movie theater that they have hired engineers, and they've hired, I think they're going to have available to them a full staff of people. My feeling is that this is the time we should hire a third-party engineering firm to review this whole thing from the police station down to Mr. Peretta's property and how it all comes together and what impact that this is going to have. Because I would hate to see that we approve the police station, the movie theater gets flooded out again, and the argument's made in court, it's because we approved the police station. So I think that both applications should be on hold till we can get a handle on all of this correction or modification. You had the new movie theater people indicate, the engineer for the movie theater people suggested 4 or 5 items or that should be corrected. You got the police station, which I just can't get a good handle when you cracked into the groundwater supply and you can't control the groundwater. So,
Mr. Chairman, the condition you just described is classic in geology with water and water table levels. When an area receives as much rain as we have, the ground gets saturated. We all understand that, but the strata that is underneath there suspends it. And so what you have described in perfect textbook description is called an artesian well system.
exactly.
And there isn't, if you seal it, you could control it and keep it underground, but once you open it up, it's a seasonal thing. Certain times a year, it could bubble 4 feet into the air through a 6-inch pipe, be 4 foot with a 1-inch pipe, doesn't matter. The analogy would be in current is enormous there. The pressure depends upon the altitude of the area above you. Yeah, there is once that flows, you can't stop that. It's regional. It would take weeks before that discharges enough water underground and through this artesian system until the levels go down and then everything's wonderful. The thing is, we've had how much more rain than usual this year? Everything is saturated. I have some pumps that have run more this year than ever since I built my house, 38 years ago? Yeah, it's quite remarkable. But yeah, I thought I was reading my textbook, listening to you there and describing what was taking place. It's an artesian system. It's a natural flow. That's clean water. It's very clean water. It's probably potable. I wouldn't try it unless I tested it, but yeah, that's what's happening there, and you're right. That's a lot of water coming up there. So I agree. We should look into this and have someone investigate it.
Well, I was thinking of who do we look towards? And I would go back to Aaron over here. I mean, you've got engineers and you've got maybe engineers that specialize in this more than Aaron. We've used George Cotter in the past for some of these terms, and I think has been successful. You've got Mr. Cassidy that has come in with some nice plans, complete plans. But there's another fellow that I cannot remember his name. He's been here. I don't know if he's with Bristol Myers. He's been before us, but not too often. We went through and rethought about his.
Not that I was here at the time, but I happen to remember B&L hired people that came in to do well analysis in the Bristol Myers property area,
Right.
the 5 Research Parkway. Yeah, they do a series of test pits and then monitor them to see how they flow with rain.
Was that the gentleman? He was a slender gentleman, tall,
Yes, he was.
very knowledgeable, and he even said to his applicant, "No, that's not correct. This happens."
That would be all in our records of the involvement with that application.
Well, what does the commission want to do? Do we want to get a person involved right now, or do we want more input on this? or instruct Aaron to start looking for an engineer, or come up with a table. I just don't, all I see is a potential lawsuit happening to the town.
Protect yourself. I mean, do everything you need to do to make sure that what we pass forward is to the best of our ability.
I'm sorry?
There's two things here. Aaron, I wasn't aware that when a construction site put in a swale to retain the water, that it could overgrow itself and be discontinued. Now, I'm under the understanding there's a drainage swale up there or some type of a pond that's overgrown and is no longer functioning.
Which property are we discussing with the overgrown?
To the east of
Barnes Park North.
Barnes Park North.
Oh, yeah, up there, further up the watershed, yeah, there's detention basins that are overgrown and not maintained, yes.
Well, in the
Private property. Yeah.
it's private property, but under the agreement to approval of these sites, there's no maintenance program on these swales? What I'm saying is we don't need any more water going west. I don't think that it's fair to the cinemas or Mr. Parati's self-storage or whatever it is he wants to develop. So we need to keep the water up there on that side of the road. So if we gave approval to have these swales put in and retain the water and let it dissipate at a slower rate, and they're overgrown now and they're not functioning, that may be part of the problem why the water's barreling down across the road. And now the police station's already brought it to our attention. You know, they think they've hit an aquifer or whatever Mr. Hellman called it. There's a problem there. So do we need to get an engineer to redesign the police station and then find out if we can go back after the property owners on these swales that are overgrown and are not functioning the way they submitted them to us?
Short answer is yes, we can look at all of that. It has been brought up many times. These were overgrown basins that you're discussing were a problem when I came to town 20 years ago. These are old basins. Before my time, they were overgrown when I got here. So, and I know Linda Bush did a inventory of them, and the mayor got involved,
Well,
and
let's
the
just
town
stick with
was
this
not
one.
going to dig them out themselves. The town wasn't
Yeah.
going to do it.
I remember, Jim, you should probably also, when Lowe's wanted to build where the self-storage is, and as I recall, they discovered this retention pond up there all grown in, and the state of Connecticut said, leave it, it's a wetland now. It's a functional wetland.
This is north of Lowe's?
I'm sorry?
To the north of Lowe's?
Where they were going to develop it first.
Okay, yeah.
Well, no, Lowe's was going to come where the self-storage is. And there was going to be a dam and a big retention pond there on the side hill. And they took it out of our hands because the dam superseded our regulations.
I don't remember.
You don't recall, but it went up to the retention pond, which is in Barnes Park North, coming down through there. And as I recall, it was determined that it had filled in and it was growing, and the state said, leave it as a wetland, don't put it back as a retention pond.
If we can show that it was intentionally designed for the water storage, stormwater storage, you know, that was part of the application approval, was to leave that retention there. It's the same thing with the police station, that we know that there's a problem there. We need to address it, and what's there now is not going to be big enough. So now's the time to fix both of those. Let Aaron do a little bit of homework to find out where that detention pond is, and I don't believe the state is real in saying that it's a wetland, leave it alone now. Maybe the way Lowe's went at it was they wanted to make it a pond with a dam, and the state said no because there's no more dams they're going to be allowed in the state of Connecticut. So I think somebody needs to do a little more research on this to see where we're going with this.
So what's the commission's purview? What would they like to do? Would Would they like to put a hold on this until we get a third-party review? Or do we want to continue forward and see what we determine ourselves?
I think you're just looking at a lawsuit by doing anything. Because no matter what you do, police station or the retention pond that's not being maintained are going to flow down across the road and end up across Vinnie's and then into the back of the cinema. So if you want the lawsuit, the town to have the lawsuit, then we can proceed with this. Otherwise, I think we should stop and address Aaron to get into there and find out what's going on with this.
And get
Third-
third-party review?
Hire a
I agree.
third-party review.
Is that a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we direct Aaron to hire a third-party,
Not review,
have a third-party review of, which plan?
review the applicants for a third-party review.
Review the applicants for a third-party review.
Of this area.
Are we doing a review of the entire watershed for this stream?
Well, I don't know about the tire watershed. I'm concerned about the police station and the Panetta application and the police station affecting the Panetta and the whole thing affecting the cinema.
Okay, and I just bring everyone probably knows that this stream was a problem even before the town acquired that police property. So it's been a problem forever. For 20 years, it's been a problem.
Okay, there's a motion made. It hasn't been seconded yet.
I don't have it fully. Can you restate the motion?
The motion was made that Aaron to review potential applicants for a third-party review of this project and also research the retention pond that possibly the state said not to be opened up and functional again. There hasn't been a second yet.
Tell me where this,
The
where exactly is the address where the state said you can't do this? I haven't heard this.
What's that again?
Which property did the state said you cannot open up the detention
Well,
basins?
you've got to go locate the retention pond up there in
Okay.
that area.
It's up in Barnes Park North.
It's not up high, I believe, I'm guessing, it's between Corometrics coming down to where it goes behind the old Calcaney house and crosses and picks up the brook there.
So on the uphill side across from the
Yes.
self-storage area, there's
Yes.
a large wooded lot, and that's between Barnes Road and Brookside Drive.
It's got to be on that water course that comes down to the self-storage.
On the satellite, you see this area is all wooded with some thin spots in the woods, and there is definitely an open area that is not wooded that looks like it could have been a pond at one point in time.
I don't know if it was up higher or not.
That is,
There could be some maps representing that Barnes Park North.
that is not far from the North Main Street extension. It's far closer to North Main Street extension than any of the other buildings except for the Calcaney mansion.
You pull a couple of the old files, Aaron, you should be able to find it.
Okay.
You shouldn't have any
Something in
problem.
there.
finding
Yeah, there's something in there.
But do you understand what we're trying to do? We're trying to get the water to slow down on the east side of the road, even retain it, let it dissipate at a slower rate so that it doesn't flood people across the street. Because right now, that retention pond that was there is no longer there, and I don't believe the state had any authority to tell you to leave it as wetlands unless Lowe's was going to put a dam in, and which dams are no longer accepted in the state of Connecticut. They're trying to do away with dams. But all we're trying to do is put a swale retention area in there that would hold the water back and let it dissipate naturally. I know if we go further up the street, there's a 6-inch pipe running through the Jeremiah property that's got almost 90% capacity that runs 24/7, 365 days a year because there's so much water up there that continually, so we're not looking to shut the water off, we're just looking to put back what we approved of. And then with the police station, we know that has to be redesigned to accept the water that's coming out of the ground now.
You made the comment that there's been trouble at the cinema before. That's right. And this, we don't want to add to it. And it's very possible that the problem that the cinema had this year, I'm not sure if it was caused by the Panetta project or the police station. I know after the last storm, there was dirty water traveling through the drainage connection, the ditch behind the cinema, but I don't think it was coming off the Panetta property. All right, so there's a motion made. Do you understand the motion then?
Yes, I just have to say, though, I'm concerned about.
You got to use the microphone. I
Oh,
cannot hear you.
I'm concerned about the timeline here. By
Well-
the time I wrap my head around this and get people, consultants talking about this, and then I guess I'd come back, you approve them, they go out, they do the work, we're talking a few months here, right?
It unfortunately could be longer. If you want to go up and see the town attorney and say, this is what's going on, do you care if we get sued on this? I mean, we're trying to represent the town. If the town doesn't feel that it's necessary to protect them, we can move on.
You have a simple task to dig out the old files and find out who was responsible for that retention. And then we need to decide whether there's a maintenance program on that needs to take that and clear cut it and bring it back to where it retains the water from up there. The second issue that you're going to look at is the police station has already notified you that the water's bubbling out of the ground up there. It needs to be retained. So it's two simple things that you need to do. The first thing you need to do is go into the records, dig out the old files and find out where that retention is. Go up and take a picture of it and see that it's not being maintained.
Right?
All right? And if the state said that you couldn't do anything with it, it was a misunderstanding on their part because somebody at Lowe's wanted to put a dam in there to retain the water. We don't want to put a dam in there. We want to just make a swale to catch the storm water.
Right.
Maybe my information is all incorrect.
And the second piece was you said police station was the second piece to this, Nick. That they
That it's-
have a plan here, and you're saying, they haven't presented it yet, but you're saying maybe they should retain more of this groundwater instead of letting it go down into the stream.
Well, the police station was good enough to tell us they've already got a problem up there with the water. They know what's going to happen. It's going to only go west, which is downhill into behind the theater. So we need to figure out a game plan with a third-party opinion on what we can do to prevent us from pushing more water down behind the cinema. That's all we're asking. We're not asking any big future development. It's two simple things. The first part is your part is to find out where that's.
No, I understand the assignment. I'm just worried about the timeline here. That's, frankly, I'm worried about it.
You're that busy.
No, not me. I'm saying the timeline, the
Police station's
steps.
pushing.
The steps and what it'll hang up the police headquarters getting finished, everything get pushed back. And
Well, the
Mr.
police
Paredes piece
police
and pushed
station's already
back.
been exposed, so we know what we can do there. It's a matter of widening it or redesigning it. And then they came tonight in front of us to redesign their plan. So they're on board with what we need to have done. They brought it up tonight. That's why we're talking about it now. The other issue is one that should have been taken care of 10 years ago when Lowe's presented an application to put their store there. And it wasn't addressed. It was pushed aside because they thought we were going to put a dam in to retain the water.
Okay, the motion made, and there was a second?
I'll second the motion.
Jeff, second the motion. Okay. All right, so the application, maybe we'll have some more information 30 days from now. You
You interested in having a vote yet?
We're working on it.
all right. I think you may want to spend some time with Janice to get a handle on her side of this equation. And if she doesn't think, if she thinks we're barking up the wrong tree, then everything moves forward next month. Okay,
We're going to vote on it? We have to vote.
call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Going on to reports and communication. Number one's been on the agenda. Number two, in memoriam cemetery. You've been working with the contractor there with success?
And the engineer, more importantly. So, yes, so what is now happening is they're not coming in. I asked them, modify it, come in a second time. He goes, no, respectfully, no. The contractor will pull it out and install it like we designed it the second time. He's going to pull it out a second time. Twice he did it wrong. He's going to pull it out and do it right. That was their position, so that's where we're going with.
Okay.
When I will say the owners of the cemetery came in to meet with me and get a fix on what's going on, because they were very confused with all the changes that have been coming down on this. But they understand it. The contractor's got to put it in right.
Okay.
Once and for
Number
all.
4, interesting memorandum from Janice regarding Jimmy's concern over cease and correct, cease and desist violation. I think that memo back from Janice ought to be put in each one of our own file at home and review it from time to time.
Right, it hasn't come back yet, though.
What?
I haven't gotten her answer yet, yeah. Right, but when it does
To what?
come in,
To what, the notice violation and everything?
okay? Maybe we're
What do you
talking
mean?
about a different memorandum.
Huh? You don't think you got an answer back from her?
No. Did I miss something?
Yeah, it's right
Yeah.
here. You gave it to us in our packet.
It's in the packet.
No, that's to Janice. That one's to Janice.
All right, but there's
from
there's
Aaron.
one from Janice.
There was one from Janice, I thought.
One from, yes, there is one. It's to do with 801 North Colony, which we've already talked about. She got a memorandum back for me on that.
Well, she broke it down. I read it somewhere that she broke it down in the different issues.
Well, then there was a handout that Deb Phillips brought back from the Cackaway Conference on cease and desist that we handed out at the December meeting.
Here's a January 31st, 2024, Janice to Aaron,
This is about I Am the Walrus LLC.
about Tractor Supply.
Yeah, I believe it hasn't come back yet, but it will momentarily.
We'll go with the rest of it back.
Okay. I thought sure it came back. She broke it down. Okay, number 5, I think we all received that directly from the law department. Mark our calendars for February 29th. Amtrak, they've got total control over everything on number 6 and number 7, the railroad, both way. Okay. Violations. 1245 Old Colony Road. I thought we were making progress on that, correct?
Not
Where
really.
we put it on the
Well, we
land
did, no,
records?
his daughter got back to me. He's very ill, but his daughter's willing to meet with us, so that, us meaning the town planner and me. So yes, we will explore that once again, yes.
Okay, cease and correct order remains on 67 Schoolhouse Road. Cease and correct order remains 67 Schoolhouse Road with little Ks. I did hear the other day that he is still in business. He is still doing business, which shocks me. Okay, Patricia Clark, we still haven't resolved that, but I'm glad it's still on the agenda. Number 5, notice of violation remains Quigley Road. I thought that was doing pretty well.
He put the plants in, like 30 plants. We'll see if they live through the spring, the winter. We'll see how they're doing. It's probably a giant lake right now.
Okay. Parentheses in correct order remains for Kondraki Lane. This is, will come off when the work is done on that. Number 7, notice of violation 4, Meller Road, Robert and Rhonda Doolittle, unpermitted filling. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commission. Tom Daly with SLR Consulting. I'm here with Bob Doolittle, who is the recipient of the notice of violation. I think our goal this evening is, one, Bob's going to make a few comments to you about some past history and what his feelings are. Then we'd expect to hear from the Commission. And me as a consultant, I'm here to try to find a way to support both the commission and Bob in terms of trying to find a resolution. So I guess my goal at the end of maybe this conversation is maybe I get some guidance from the commission as to how we can move forward. Thank you.
Robert Doolittle, 4 Miller Road, the owner of the property. I want to apologize, first of all, for the last two not appearing here. The first one, I was traveling. It was very short notice, but, excuse me. And the second one, I came home early to do it, and I got the flu. So I'm sorry about that, but I'm here to listen and do what we have to do to correct these violations.
Aaron, what's the issues on this violation?
Okay, the environmental planner's report went out into your packet Friday, which kind of sums up where we are. The notice of violation issued November 29th, and as Mr. Doolittle explained, he skipped the next two meetings, so now here we are in February. And I did meet with Mr. Daly and Mr. Doolittle, on the 24th. We sat down. So they really wanted to understand exactly what they were dealing with. If you recall, initially, the enforcement issues circled around the stream and the footbridge, but then later on, at the last meeting in January, I handed out a map highlighted because I realized, I guess the chairman brought to my attention that there was other stuff going on by the driveway and maybe some other wetland clearing on that end of the property. So it expanded to that. So anyway, so I met with these gentlemen, and I know Mr. Daly was going to take a look at old aerial photographs. I don't know if he got the opportunity to do that, to see how it looked, let's say 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, to see if we could see the vegetation moving back. I'm talking about nearer the house than the driveway. Or if they could see with more clarity about the footbridge area. And I think we decided the footbridge went in around 2012, and I think Mr. Doolittle confirmed that. But from the photographs that are available, the aerial images, you kind of can see that. And I asked Mr. Daly if he could, with some engineering expertise, ascertain the structural integrity of the various blocks and big boulders that are in the stream and the footbridge, where its footings, et cetera, because this place floods, And the most interesting thing for me that came out of that meeting was Mr. Doolittle said the original developer, Mr. DiNatale, when he was doing the Malore subdivision, must have hardened off that stream, because Mr. Doolittle said he didn't. So he said he must have put those big abutments, or whatever you want to call them, in the stream there. I did get an old subdivision map out of the Malore, and it doesn't shed light. It does show the stream taking that hard, right angle, and then another left angle. It shows it. So the angle, the configuration of the stream didn't change, but it doesn't have enough detail to show any stones or armoring. So, but I was glad to see that the actual alignment of the stream hadn't changed in 30 years or whatever. So that's basically where we are today.
Well, is this a candidate for a site investigation?
Oh, he Yes?
I mean, because everything else is pictures 10 years apart or something like that.
That'd be a good idea.
What's the earliest the commissioners can get there? 'Cause we're gaining daylight, but probably much after 5:15.
What are we actually going to go out there and look at? The violation, which is the violation? Is it the boulders and the footbridge?
Well, we
Is
know
it-
the footbridge is.
All right, the boulders, that Mr. Di Natale supposedly put them there, those something that the homeowner, property owner now needs to remove to put the brook back where it's supposed to be?
I would not think not.
Okay, but then, well, I need guidance on, I'm gonna go out, I've already been out there and looked at it, but I need to know what I'm looking at now. What do you want us to fix by going out there?
Well, I guess the Oxbow area where the footbridge goes over, I'd want to see how I would put fill over there if I was going to fill it. I think that's going to be the difficult one to put fill across the brook. You know, we don't see a road, we don't see a bridge for a truck. Okay, so we got that. Now this side of the brook, though, has their fill been put in? Does it look like it's fill put in? Does it have to be removed? Does it have to, if it's functioning without impact? The pictures show the blocks that hold the footbridge. They're kind of blocking the flow a little bit, I think, that's in there. Do they come out? Do they get reset? I think that's the sort of thing, Nick, unless you disagree with me.
No, I don't agree with you, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic when I ask you this, but I'm trying to get a picture. I've never seen a brook of that rage go and then take a 90 and then take another 90. It's unbelievable unless it's hard pan or red rock out there. Now, if it's been blocked and it's changing its course, do we want to, I don't know what to say. Need guidance on what I'm looking for.
I mean, we could get Steve Kondracki to probably come back, or Gary Kondracki to come back if we needed to. But I think some of the pictures, the earliest pictures we have, show a pretty good steep bend twice in that brook.
But I know when it goes, it takes to 90 and heads west, then it takes another 90 and heads south, or what I call south. There's all flat land down in there, and it looks like certain times of the year, I'm sure that's really wet. It's a floodplain area.
Huge.
Yeah, they may get some hay out of it in the summertime if it's a dry summer.
That's what he does.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you prevented any kind of erosion from the property you have unless you're doing continuous maintenance.
I'm not,
Well, I think my understanding is the blocks were put in before Mr. Doolittle arrived on the property to develop it. I think Bob said he did not install the blocks.
I didn't.
The two so-called mafia blocks,
Yeah.
they were there before you started, before you
That
bought the
wall,
property?
So, as you said, the stream comes down and turns 90. The wall made of the big blocks was not put in by Mr. Doolittle.
How about the blocks that hold the footbridge?
Those were moved off the
Yes.
top of that, when they had the crane there to put the bridge, put the bridge over. That bridge is free spanning. I mean, there's no,
And Bob admits he did the footbridge, and then
Yeah.
there's fencing
Absolutely.
on there. In terms of the area you're talking about, the fill, my observation was is the tree roots looked like they had not been buried, and there's big trees out there. And frankly, with the water coming off the culverts there, if you had put any fill there, it would have, I've seen a video of the water that comes through there. Any fill in that where there's a fire pit, that would have been downstream in about 5 minutes with the flow. So I think we can take a look at that area. I did look at the aerial, but frankly, the old aerials are just not crisp enough to see that level of detail like you can see on the new aerials. I did not see anything that was like, that's it. So, but I can look at the old air and confirm, see what I can find about the stream making that turn that we see today. I suspect that the previous, whatever the farmer or the builder, probably when the water was turning, it was eroding that bank, and he put those concrete blocks in there to keep the water going around that corner.
and it does do that.
But now it's no longer used for the road, it's a recreational thing. So he put a footbridge in there, which is recreational, and he's put some fill. Now, you talked about the tree roots being exposed. Why they're exposed is because the force of the water has eroded all the soil around them. So eventually, they're gonna undermine and flip over, or they're gonna take his footbridge out. So is this footbridge that was illegally in place something that should be approved, or should be dismantled and taken away and put the water course back to its natural state?
Well, the footbridge did not alter the stream. Mr. Doolittle spanned that. But I think that's a conversation we look forward to have with the commission. I mean,
I think they want you to talk more into the.
oh, sorry.
speaker.
It is Mr. Doolittle's desire, if possible, to you know, keep the footbridge but obviously with the site walk, we look forward to spending some time with the commission and taking a look at it. Because you're right, the photographs, you just don't get a sense as to what's really going out there, so.
Okay, let me get back to what time frame is a 4:05 too early for everybody?
Nope.
I know not Jimmy, I mean, I know not Mike, Jeff?
Tuesdays would be best, but,
What did you say?
Tuesday would be best.
Tuesday?
Do next week, but I don't know.
I don't think I have, what day? Next Tuesday? Tuesday of the calendar.
Have you arrived at something?
Sorry?
Did you guys speak up, or have you arrived at something yet?
Now, we're talking about a date for the site walk.
Go ahead.
We'll give it to you in a minute.
All right.
Let's make it Tuesday, next Tuesday. All right, next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday?
All right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, and 4:05? I don't think it'll take much more than a half hour to visit the site.
Where are we gonna meet it? Muller Road up, Mr.
Yeah, come in,
We can
come
come
down
into his driveway. He has a
Yeah.
fairly nice turnaround. It should be plenty of room to
all the way to
accommodate
the,
all.
just come to the end, sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You'll drive all the way to the end of the driveway. We'll see you there at 4:45.
Okay? You got it, Aaron?
4:45,
Thank you.
right? 4:45?
Yes,
Yes.
We'll see you Tuesday.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the cease and desist order, number 8, for 86 Barnes Road and North Main Street. And the next one also. Okay, now, you have something to share with us?
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Zac George, and I'm with
You
Giuliano.
got to speak up a little louder.
Speak up.
Good evening. My name is Zac George, and I'm with Giuliano Associates out of 405 Main Street. As this is an evolving situation in terms of a cease and desist and actively attempting to implement and correct sediment erosion control issues, I have submitted 4 reports in the last week to the commission to address what has been improved, an investigation as to sources of stormwater, and if the commission's open, I would like to go through that.
Well, we don't accept any reports that aren't in our packet for the weekend. So we haven't seen your report yet.
I understand that. I can go through that. I believe
I don't know if I want to go through it. Maybe I wanted to go through it this weekend.
I do understand that, sir.
So I don't know if it's up to the commission. Do they want to hear this?
We gave charge at the last meeting to have the applicant get in touch with the cinema owner and to help or assist or clean up the mud that was behind the cinema. That's what, and we asked him to come back this month and report on how he made out with it and what kind of corrections he made. So Tuesday night's big heavy rain that's coming won't cause this to happen again. So I'm more not about your reports, because you could have probably had a shovel down there and helped them shovel the mud up instead of making the report out. But have Vinny tell us what he's done to update us on what kind of progress he's made in cleaning up the mess behind the cinemas. So I'd like to hear from Vinny. Okay.
Good evening. I did meet with Mr. Flaflam and his attorney representing, I believe, one of the owners next door. And we did go through some stuff. We did talk about the cleaning and stuff. As far as inside his facility itself, we agreed upon some certain, we agreed on some certain things. And then as far as the current driveway that's on the Odelot site, I did call on a Friday evening and did go over and do some cleaning on a Saturday. Cleaned the catch basin that was clogged there before a snow that was coming, I believe on that Saturday night. I'm not too sure of the date. And then as far as the catch basins that are running parallel behind the self-storage facility, the storm drains there, we didn't really discuss that, but there was mention of that being cleaned, and I did, didn't address that yet, but we'll be sending someone over there, of course, talking to Bob first to take a look at those basins, see if they have to be vacuumed out or anything.
Well, we have potentially another storm coming for Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday night into Tuesday. Did you fix the breach on your existing self-storage that was running water over the bank down into the lot you stripped? Or is that still exposed to where your water from your existing storage can get back down into the disturbed lot? We had pictures last month
Of a breach?
of a breach.
Or an overflow?
No, it looked like an erosion breach where the water got so high it ran over the bank and ran into your new
So it
lot.
overflowed
Right, it overflowed.
Overflowed. So there was no breach, it was an overflow.
I call it a breach because when the water gets so high, it's got nowhere to go.
Okay.
What's it do? It breaches to the next lot.
So since then, there's been recorded, I believe, well, Zach would have that in a few of his reports, rainstorms, and there was no more breach.
There was no more breach.
No more breach.
Okay.
I believe the breach was part of the conversation that was held before of the other side of North Main Street extension and the overflow coming above.
Okay. I know you've been listening tonight to what's going on across the street from you, and we're trying to indulge in that, to straighten that out so that it'll, I think it's got an effect on your property. So,
It doesn't on 86 Barnes Road, it does on the current self-storage facility.
right.
But did you fill that erosion on the bank from the pictures that we saw?
No, I didn't feel that erosion on that bank.
Basically, we have the hard rain coming on Monday night and Tuesday. It's going to continue to do what it did at the last storm we had, the big storm.
If I may, Mr. Kern, part of my reports is going through and identifying sources of why this happened in December specifically, and why later in January, when we had that significant storm, I believe it was on the 14th, it didn't happen again. And that would be because the culvert that allows this channel to travel underneath the crossing between the go-kart facility and Big Lots was obstructed with a log. I have since removed that log between this storm, the December storm event in January, and that's why we did not, when we had a similar rain event, see that same flooding and overtopping.
So you've solved the issue with why it breached and went down and caused all the flooding?
Yeah,
The log. Was it just a Mother Nature log, or was it a log that somebody threw in there to plug the system up?
I can't pretend to put any type of blame on anything, but it was a cut log. I have a photo of it if I could show the commission.
No, you can tell the difference between beaver's teeth and a chainsaw.
So the idea of whether someone threw it in there, I can't comment on that. It was a cut log at some point. Someone cut it cleanly on both sides. Easily tellable the age of the log, and it's included in my reports. Had fungus growing on the cuts. It's old. It was not of 86 Barnes Road's origin.
You've seen reports from Wallingford Shopping LLC, a letter, and then also a report from Civil C1, I think?
Civil 1, I've seen the Civil 1
Civil
report.
1.
I don't believe I've seen the other report.
You have not?
I don't believe I have. It does not sound familiar.
It's a letter. It came with the other one. It's just a cover letter.
Well, not C1.
No, C1 was, that letter C1 was attached to the Wallingford.
But you didn't want us to share this with Mr. Peretta?
I did send them
You
it.
did or you didn't?
I did.
Andy, you got one of these?
He says he doesn't have it.
The only documents I received were 486 Barnes Road specific, 29, was the cease and desist letter, the Civil 1 letter.
Well, you have the C1 letter. then.
C1 is.
I said the other letter you said mention 2. I have the Civil 1, I do not have the other one.
You don't have the Wallingford Shopping LLC? It says he received wetlands at the 29th of January.
I have 2 documents that I received. One is from Civil 1, and one is the original cease and desist order.
Oh, I sent them to Vinny. Maybe I didn't send them to you, Zach. I sent them to Vinny. This is, Zach's reports came in yesterday afternoon and today. And, everyone's real busy, but, the applicant and the project engineers need to sit down with me, the applicant's engineers, and they used to. They used to come in the middle of the month, hash it out. What do you want? Look what I did. I've already done this. Should I give it to the commission? That kind of thing. And no one does it anymore. I think Zachary might have been left out of some loop.
Well,
But if we met-
There may be a reason for that, but we don't have to act on this if you're not completed.
I'm just
I mean, the
saying-
issues here on the C1, I don't know if they addressed all this. This sounds like some pretty good ideas that's been submitted here. It's also on the Wallingford Shopping letter. They have some ideas also. So unless you sit with them and come up with some answer, I don't know what we're supposed to do.
Okay, but I believe Vinny sat down with Civil 1 and Wallingford Shopping Center, didn't you?
I sat down and received that letter, yes, from Mr. Laflamme. I
Yeah.
wasn't,
So then you gave it to Zachary and said, we got to do this, right?
that was,
The Civil 1, we got to do this stuff.
yes.
Yeah. And then Zachary has done a bunch of it. I don't know if he did everything on the Civil 1 letter, but the stack of materials that came in yesterday and today, he's done some of these things, yeah. He's done some of them.
Well,
He did.
I really don't know if we're prepared to move forward on this. Based on your report, I'm not sure we're prepared to move forward.
Well,
Vote to affirm the cease and desist order remains. Issue additional directives under the order. What's the directives? What directives do you want to issue? Aren't you waiting for more information from David Lord?
David Lord, Vinny sent me an email this afternoon from David Lord. It's a report. It's in here, copies. I made copies. There they are. It doesn't address the things I wanted to address that I cited in the cease and desist order, the original one. It doesn't address those things. It addresses half of them.
Well, how do you expect us to make a decision if things that you've requested have not been submitted?
You can definitely say that the cease and desist remains. That's simple enough to do. You can decide if you want a bond. You can listen, if Zach can report on the deep test pits that he wanted, because Civil 1 and other people wanted to affirm that future infiltration unit is really going to work. So he and Vinny went out and did new deep test pit information sitting right there. I think it's really, they should have come in the middle of the month and not today, but it's right there. They have done a lot of work. And Vinny has gone out and done all the erosion control from the original plan. That's all on there. And the wind blew it down. He put it back up. We had some windy days. So as far as the erosion control on the site, it's pretty good. I would like to ask Zach a question about this trench they dug. I'd like to hear more about that. I just heard about it tonight. He showed a picture of it in his report. I'm not pleased with the David Lord thing. He didn't, he threw something at it, but he's got to say, what are we going to do about this? Because it's not his plan. The plan that David Lord approved and we approved it was a very meticulous plan. It was a very good plan for the wetland restoration. And he kind of glossed over that. He didn't really say, oh yeah, they took out, all the shrubs, but that's okay. We don't need shrubs. He didn't say that. He didn't address that there's no more shrubs. What's he going to do about that? Is he going to go buy 40 more shrubs or something? I don't know.
Aaron, stop. As far as I'm concerned, he was here tonight to give us a report on how he made out with cleanup with the cinema owners and what's going ahead with that. Now, if the gentleman in the audience wants to speak on the cinema's behalf, I don't know if the chairman would like him to speak.
Yes.
If I may say before, I just want to mention one important thing in this pile of paperwork. Is Zac went down and took pictures of this stream, and he found several places where there's problem that needs cleanup, or needs a tree cut down, or needs this or that. Several different places. He was asked to do that last time, and he did it. So, they've done, maybe it hasn't all gelled together, but they've done bits and pieces to help to head towards solving the problem. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. It's Kurt Jones from Civil One, professional engineer, and Bob LaFlamme from the Holiday Cinemas. And thank you for discussing this tonight, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak. As you noted, we did submit a letter dated January 15th with some of our recommendations based on our 30-plus years of experience in this area. And we do appreciate the cooperation that Mr. Peretta has extended by meeting with Bob and his attorney. Personally, I wasn't present at the meeting, so I'm not sure of everything that was discussed there. And I do have, if you'd like to discuss any of these recommendations in the letter, there's about 7 points here. I'm not going to read the letter, but if there's anything that you did have a question on, I'd be glad to discuss it with you. I do request from Aaron that we receive copies of all materials that are submitted. So we were not aware of, the additional materials that came in the last day or two, so we respectfully request a copy of that information. Also, I was very encouraged to hear the chairman talk about the third party taking a broader picture of what's going on out there, because we all kind of know what happens. You get one application here, and that looks good. We get another application here, and that's okay. And sometimes we lose the big picture. So I don't think you need to do a huge exhaustive study, but someone with some experience to take a look at that, make recommendations to the town. It shouldn't be a long, exhaustive effort. I appreciate the concerns on the timing, and of course that's important. But I do think that this can provide you all some valuable information on what's going on out there. I guess just in summary, I do request that you please instruct the applicant to implement our recommendations and to have some type of logical, methodical follow-up to make sure that those recommendations have been taken care of. And I really appreciate the chance to talk. I think Bob might have a couple words to say here. Thank you.
I was going to ask Kurt to interject the
Name.
Bobby LaFlamme.
Need your name, but
Bobby LaFlamme. I represent the cinemas and the Wallingford Shopping Center. We did have a meeting, and I don't think we resolved any issues there. We laid out what we thought had to be done. The drains had to be cleared out. We had to address the mud that was there and everything, and the cinema cleanup, which I think I proposed a number that they seem very happy about, but my understanding, unless I'm wrong, is they wanted to think about it and get back to us. But nothing's been cleaned on the drains. None of that work has been done, and I'm very, very concerned because in light of the information we heard tonight with the police department, I'm even more encouraged that we have a peer review look at that with the mud, which categorically, the video, if you watch the live video we took from our cameras on the cinema, the mud did come at least the mud coming off the hill there from the storage shed site. So this storm, and I think Kurt from Civil One can testify, even though this seemed like a large storm, it was under a, how many year storm? Under a 10-year storm. So if we get something significant, I think we'll all be in trouble with the police situation, with the water. So we need someone to come in that will address all that before it moves on. And I don't think anything should move on until we all feel safe. I don't want to experience another mud out at the cinema, the plaza flooded, or the dumpsters floating down. Nobody wants that. And I think, what's it going to take to have all this checked and get it done right this time? Once everything's built and it doesn't work, there's a problem, it's too late. And then the finger pointing starts, but we're left to suffer the consequences. And I appreciate it if the commission can do something to help us with that. Get a peer review all the numbers independently so that we all know everything is going to be done right.
That's the direction I think we're heading.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But after hearing that there was debris in that channel, I think it would behoove the cinemas or the LLC to have some kind of maintenance program on that channel. Unfortunately, you don't own the channel. And I don't know who owns the whole channel, probably multiple people.
I think, Mr. Chairman, both channels, the one directly behind us, I had Kurt and I walk through it. We actually made a video of it. And I think you can explain a little bit about the channel that's behind the cinema.
You got to use the microphone, Bob.
I think Kurt from Civil One can bring you up to date on how the channel behind the cinema is. Go ahead, Kurt, explain it.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, we did take a look at that channel, and we did discuss it with Aaron, and we agree 100% that that channel needs to be maintained. There's a lot of brush and trees, and it's just plugging up the channel, and as a result, it's not able to convey the design flows that was sized to convey. So if it's supposed to convey X cubic feet per second, it's X minus Y, and that's definitely a contributing factor. So in our recommendations, we found a number of contributing factors. So there's nothing huge that we saw, but in summary, in aggregate, when you add all these together, it does make a big difference.
But who's going to maintain it?
Well, I think it's on Mr. Paredes' property.
It's all on Mr. Paredes' property? You got to use the microphone.
Yes. My wife says I always speak so loud, so I thought I'd be okay. But anyway, the channel that overflowed over the bank with the mud, right, is the one Kurt and I walked the whole length behind the cinema. That's the one that my understanding would be maintained by the storage sheds. And the riprap, large rocks are down in the channel. We actually have a video of it, and that's kind of interrupting. And as it gets to a point, it tightens up. So unless that's corrected too, that's giving the water, in my mind, and the mud that came over in an easier task to get over the channel that's behind us.
All right, that's absolutely true. That's what happens.
Right.
I deal with a channel similar to that.
Yeah.
It's a problem. The vegetation grows in and chokes the whole flow. But indication was that there was some kind of log in the way. Okay. Now, was that in his section, or was that in the flat behind the parking lot, where it heads down to Route 5? Hang on a minute.
So it was hard for us to really observe because we didn't want to go on his site. We didn't feel that we had permission, but from our vantage point, it did appear that there was a breach in the pond, in an eroded gully, perhaps 2 or 3 feet deep, where it appeared that breach, there was a big slug of water that came down with all the mud, and that was, I believe, the major factor. That's just my guess without really analyzing it closely.
Yes, sir.
I have a map that may help just everyone be on the same page.
can get up there, use the microphone up there.
If everyone can see a laser pointer, I can, from right here, just fine. The obstruction in the log is located right here, in this area. And the breach they're discussing here is at the end of a swale that directs water into this catch basin, located right about here. Now, the Peretta 929 property does own this portion, essentially. This portion of the swale right here, coming up and back. This channel, that's all Peretta. Now, once that turns and goes up towards the movie theater, I'm not sure who owns that, but that's no longer Mr. Peretta's purview to clean.
I would agree.
I also have photos of the logs and other obstructions if you're interested in viewing those as well.
Use the microphone is right there. I think that's on.
Since he was kind enough to put up a map here.
Just slide it out of the holder.
The area, you know, where we saw the concern was right along the channel in here behind the cinema. The mud was flowing quite strong here. It actually floated the dumpster away down the parking lot. They had to go find it. And this is the area right here where I observed what I thought was a breach in the pond. So somehow this overflowed. It came through here. I would submit that any log down here had nothing to do with what's going on farther upstream.
But by the same token, someone should be maintaining between the buildings, the property.
Yes, sir.
And who owns that strip?
I'd have to research that. I'd be glad to do that.
Could that be part of your property, sir?
I think
One showed directly where the storage shed's here, right? Yeah. All this area and the main flooding area came in here and hopped over here. So how that would have any effect on what we're dealing with water, if you watch the live video, it makes no sense.
That may not be, but somebody's got to maintain that channel going down to
Well,
Route
if
5.
we're responsible, we categorically will clean it.
Well, I think it would behoove you to find out.
Oh, we're gonna.
And even
we'll
if you share,
definitely find
even
out.
if you share the cost with the bowling alley or whoever's next to you there,
If it's our responsibility, we'll do it. We don't want to go through this again. That's why the peer
Oh,
review would make us feel our life's a little.
that's why you're getting us involved in a legal issue about cleaning that channel. Whose responsibility is it? Is it the responsibility of who owns the property, who gains nothing? I shouldn't say that. Stop. Or is it benefits you if you get involved in some of the maintenance over there with his permission, with the owner's permission? I don't know. That's a legal issue.
Mr. Chairman, if we are responsible for cleaning that channel, we will clean it.
I understand.
And we'll clean it on our nickel. But certainly this channel over here that's behind the storage shed should be maintained properly. If I walked it in the mud, we went down there, there's riprap, big rocks that have fallen down, and it's restricted. It has to be fixed. And as our storm drains are all clogged with mud too, we haven't fixed those, and we're looking forward to another storm. This is scary.
Well, there's some things I think this commission has authority to do and some they don't. But I would rather spend some money to clean the channel than give it to an attorney to sue the property owner next door. Okay?
We met with them and asked them to help us. We're not trying to sue anyone. We asked them. They said they'd get back to us. We haven't heard anything.
I still maintain there's something that's a whole nother issue. Right now, tonight, there's so many things that are going on here. Your report, have you analyzed Civil One's report and how it affects this property? Have you done anything with that?
Well, I'm not an engineer, but I would like to comment on it.
Well, if it hasn't been done and addressed, it's going to get postponed till next month.
I don't know how much more time you want to spend on this, but we could get some conversation going here
About what?
things. Well, for instance, the Civil One says they need, their erosion control plan that we approved in June is no good. Zac says, no, he's looked at it again and it's it's fine, okay? So I'm not an engineer, but when one engineer says it's not good enough, and the other one says, no, I looked at it and it's good enough.
Well,
Yeah.
then it's very simple. Nothing happens until a third-party review handles the whole section.
Well, but the third-party reviewer isn't gonna look at the erosion.
What's that?
The third-party reviewer isn't gonna look at the erosion control plan that we approved in June. I
Why
don't
not?
think. Well, that's
I mean,
kind of-
who's going to straighten this
That's
issue out?
kind of
Aaron?
minutia for that.
But who's going to straighten this out? You've either got to take the position that this is right, that he handled it, that is wrong. You're asking us to take a position, but you're working at this every day.
Well, I know, Civil One requested a third-party review of several things, so maybe we could get two people. One reviews 86 Barn, the other guy reviews the whole watershed there in that territory.
Mr. Vitale, may I speak?
Yes, sir.
The channel is on the current self-storage side. The channel,
I'm having trouble hearing you.
the channel itself is on the property next door from 86 Barnes Road.
Property that you own?
Yes. The channel itself was moved or regraded 20 years ago when we worked with the old owner of 86 Barnes Road. We repaired that channel so the movie theaters wouldn't flood out anymore back then. We all know that used to flood out. We repaired it back then. We're here 20 years later. I do maintain my channel on the North Main Street extension side. Aaron was out there even questioning as far as trees or removal of brush or this or that, and I maintain that I have the ability to cut the grass that's there that was approved 20 years ago. Now we have the trees that are inside the channel. The trees are overgrown. They occupy space. The silt in those channels, in that channel that comes around and overflowed, does not come from Barnes Road. Doesn't come from North Main Street Extension. Comes from the other side. I think we're all on the same page with that. I hate to say that, but that's what it seems like to me. I think tonight we're talking about a cease and desist on 86 Barnes Road that has an approved site plan that has been fouled now as far as the erosion control, the silt fence. There's been adequate work done there. I can't run a machine there because of cease and desist, so I'm limited to what I can do. I've done trenches, sediment trenches, berms, other excavation there to collect water. And from what I understand, the watershed of this area, if I'm correct, there's only about 10% that flows towards the back corner of that property. Everything else on that property flows towards Barnes Road. The only way that water can be contained is continuing the site work on that property. It will be a continuous grade of a flat elevation. Catch basins will be going in, detention basins will be going in, concrete galleys, and they'll be collecting the on-site water. When that is done, I believe the reports say there's 10% left of the watershed that goes towards that channel. There's no way 10% is going to flood that channel. Flooding comes from somewhere else. I do want to fix that channel that's on the existing site. I have the right to cut the grass to the edge of the riprap channel, but I can't cut trees that are inside the channel. You can't remove the
You don't have a right
The
to
silt.
do that, you say?
What's that?
You don't have a right to do that or a permit to do that?
Well, from what I understand, we can apply for a permit, but as far as a maintenance program, you can't go in and take trees out of that channel, correct?
Why not? Under maintenance?
When we were going for the original 86 Barnes Road application, I know Mr. Peretta actually performed a mowing operation, and it was thoroughly we were thoroughly tongue lashed by Aaron about activities in the upland review area and how we would require permitting to trim anything.
Well, upland review area is different than the watercourse. You trimmed back, you took some of the upland review that you weren't supposed to cut. Correct?
We are talking about 929 during the application process, and that was all within general maintenance of his area up to the channel edge. We were told we were not allowed
But
to do
86
that.
Barnes Road, you took more trees out in the upland review area than you were supposed to.
We are currently confusing two topics. We're discussing maintenance for the channel, and that
Well,
we're in an interesting situation here where we have two different properties owned by the same person. And so there's a level of intermixing that typically would not happen. If Peretta didn't own and Mezzi still owned 86 Barnes Road, this would be two very different discussions because we have two different property owners. But at this
you
point,
can say
what-
it's two different discussions. As far as I'm concerned, if there's this discussion saying that we can't cut those trees, but I'm saying you could cut those trees under the maintenance of that channel. And you're telling me, no, you're told you couldn't do that. But then you talked about the upland review area.
the upland review area on 929 North Main Street Extension. During the application process for 86, Mr. Peretta trimmed his side under regular maintenance. Aaron O'Hare came out and to inspect what was going on with the application and review maps on 86, noticed that he had done his maintenance work on 929, and we were thoroughly rebuked for doing that and how that activity that he should be able to do up to the channel edge on the existing storage units would require permitting.
Is that true, Aaron?
Well, not exactly, but yes, maybe someone
That's
could.
three answers in one
It's
question.
I've been told to leave roots on the bank of a stream. It helps hold the integrity of that stream. And so when you go right down to 3 inches of weeds and grass, it loses some of that integrity. That's how I've been trained.
But it also closes the flow down. You leaving all that vegetation
Well, right.
there, you reduce the capacity.
Yes, but I'm really, where's the balance? Because when those flood flows come ripping through, it's going to rip the side of that bank that has no trees and no shrubs and no anything.
But when the channel was there, it had no trees and no shrubs. When the channel was built or designed or moved or whatever was done.
Yes, I think somebody who knows about streams should look at this. Maybe we should rip wrap, seriously, I'm not being facetious, the whole thing. I don't know.
Well,
both sides.
The only trouble with rip-rapping the whole thing, when you get involved in maintaining it, you got rip-rap in the way. Now, I understand rip-rap is a necessity on a lot of issues, but you get rip-rap in the way, you can't get the brook clean, the channel clean. And in this case, if they're getting more water all the time, you certainly don't want to choke the channel down.
And I realized, there is a difference. I just saw the difference between what I'm talking about, riparian buffers. You guys hear about all the time. There's a difference between a nice stream that runs behind someone's house and this stream, which is a nightmare. So maybe in the case of a stream that floods like this, we're not supposed to keep the bushes and the tree roots and everything. We got to realize it is a flood control issue. And so we're not going to talk about riparian buffers. Like that's nice for a slow stream, a stream that behaves itself. But when it gets like this, you do whatever you can. Maybe that's what the difference is. And that, yes, I asked Vinny to stop cutting down the trees on the side of the stream. So, but maybe it doesn't apply. Maybe it should be considered a flood stream in a different way. A serious flood control stream.
Well, this gets involved in a third-party review again.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you've given us a direct line on how to handle this application.
Also the town engineer didn't even get those yet. These came in yesterday and today. She hasn't seen this.
Allison has been provided these documents.
It doesn't interest me.
I just...
You had 30 days to deal with it, and it just doesn't interest me.
Zac emailed them, which is fine. He emailed them yesterday. I didn't, so I don't have to physically hand her one. which we're going, by the way, we're going more digital in the town hall here. It's happening. So, yeah.
Makes it easier for you, more time, free time.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just very briefly, I stand by firmly on my comments that the erosion control plan is inadequate. Okay, if you look at it, you study it, you have a row of silt fence, it may have one or two other small features. Typically, we'll see interceptor swales, we'll see temporary soil stockpiles, we'll see a maintenance plan. There's a lot of stuff missing. It's just a very, very light erosion control plan. The other thing I did note in my recommendations is that quite often, especially on difficult jobs, I'm not saying this is necessarily difficult, but an erosion control plan does need revisions as you go. As the site plan changes, you don't have a static work area. It could be changing every week. So things need to change in accordance with the site conditions. And so we did make the recommendation that as those conditions change, to submit a revised erosion control plan just for a quick review and, so that everybody is on the same page. The other thing I'd like to say is Bob has said that he will maintain a channel if it's on his property. I've known Bob a very long time, and I can tell you that that will be the case.
I will, my observation, and I don't mean I got out and walked the property, but my observation after the bad rainstorms we had, I believed he created a depression on the property to allow the water get to the sand, to recharge into the sand, as compared with being sealed off with the fill that was brought in. Am I correct, Mr. President?
That depression down at the corner of the property, we excavated a trench.
Well, this to me looked a little bit closer up to your property, not down by the road. When I was looking at it, it looked like there was a depression. What do you want to say? The northwest corner of your property. I don't know if I was correct or not, but I thought you got into the sand layer and
There is two
recharge it.
depressions over there, yes.
We did see the depression, and there was really no controls there at the end. They were at the low end there. They were added within a few days after the storm event. But again, it's an indicator that these plans do need to be modified as the project is developed. So, I wanted to thank you all for all the time. I know it's getting late, and we don't really have anything further to say unless you have some questions for us.
No, I think all of this goes back to Aaron to straighten it all out. What needs to be done here to continue?
I'd like to ask Kurt a question while he's here. I wrote notes of what you said about the erosion, your ideal erosion control plan. You said, and then it should be submitted and reviewed. Who would complete it and who would review it in your mind?
I believe that's up to you guys to decide that. That's not up to me. You could have the third party, which we highly recommend, or you could have the town staff review it. We have a conflict of interest. We can't be reviewing the plans that are submitted.
Oh, I just wanted to clarify that. Also, actually, Vinnie did do a few erosion control improvements. So, Zach, the original erosion control plan was modified. You have new things on the site now.
I'm sure.
If I may be allowed to speak, yes, sediment erosion control plans are there to set the bare minimum. I regularly see contractors go through as sites develop and situations change, stockpiles move, silt fences get pushed back or forward as need be. This is something that is typically done as a contractor and a building department matter, not submitting plans on a weekly basis showing where the silt fences are located. That's just a labor-intensive endeavor that doesn't benefit anybody but to pad somebody's pocket at the end of the day, being completely honest.
Mr. Chairman, if I might say, I know what you're saying doesn't benefit anybody, but we're just looking not to be flooded out. And I think the only categoric way it can be accomplished is an independent review, because their
Mr. Chairman.
parcel, their expert is saying one thing, my expert's saying another. By bringing someone in to review everything and say that this is the right way, this is correct, it takes everybody off the hook, and then you did your due diligence, and everyone should be satisfied. But if we rely on one or the other, I think the only fair thing to do is bring an independent third party in. And
Go ahead, Vinnie.
Mr. Chairman, I'm really just, my mind is circling here. I understand we got a lot of things going on. Do I go up to the police station and submit a plan for them to repair their detention basin that's filled up with water and their job stops?
What was the first part, the police station? Is that
Yeah,
what
do I go up there? Is that what I need to do? Go up there and have my own engineer with no conflict of interest, go up there and submit a report on their site? You understand the irony here?
What I understand.
We're talking about
only-
86
I
Barnes
I
Road.
understand only too well.
We're talking 86 Barnes Road.
comment to these gentlemen that a third-party review could come in and say what your engineer has designed is perfect, and they still could get flooded out in another storm. That's the sad part about all this.
We all understand that.
We understand that. So, but until either she or the town engineer or somebody else acting as an independent person puts a stamp on it, they're not going to be happy and you're not going to be happy.
I don't think how anyone can be happy because the construction has to stop now for another month, waiting on for reports that are irrelevant because we have done everything to the erosion control.
But our advisor, can't hand us the thing and say everything is fine and they're going to do this and you're going to do that.
But the water doesn't come from Barnes Road.
What's that?
The water does not come from the site of Barnes Road.
Then
It comes from the stream.
But the first flooding did come from you, from 86.
I would say no, but I understand our reports are done late, and they have been done after every storm. That flooding was done because the water slowed down where it crosses under Route 5, came back, filled up to a level of overflow, all the way back up. And I understand it pitches downhill, but that amount of water that was flowing through that channel and water coming from above, shooting through, racing through at velocity, I don't know, I'm not an engineer.
I remember the flooding there long before you bought the
I know,
property.
before I was probably born.
Whoa.
With all due respect. I'm only joking.
I mean, Road 5 was shut down one time, right? Like the flooding across there.
But
Go ahead, Nick.
you can understand where my frustration is coming from, too.
There's no
Two different
question about
sites.
it. And of course, you've got to.
I want to work with my neighbor,
Our
too.
frustration that we can't seem to get a resolve here to what's going on.
I'm asking again for the cease and desist to be lifted, to continue to work on 86 Barnes Road, because that is an approved site plan. I've done everything. As far as Dave Lord's report, as far as the wetlands that's up adjacent to North Main Street Extension, the extra clearing, if this report is read in its entirety, I didn't take anything extra out of that area that's flagged. He's more than happy with it. He apologized he can't be here. He has a meeting in Hamden. He's a popular person.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that Vinnie would like
I
to start.
understand everything.
Go ahead.
And I understand how Mr. Laflamme feels too. And I don't want to argue with my neighbor. And I believe we are on our way to agreeing on certain things. I know I said a time frame or this or that, but I also had to do my own due diligence. And I'm not intending on backing out of anything. I did call on a Friday evening and bothered him at home to go and clean that catch basin before a storm was coming. I do monitor
And
myself.
Vinnie, I went the next day to clean it
Bob,
myself, too.
Bob, stop. Go ahead. You done? No.
No.
Nick had a comment.
You left here last month, we charged you with what you should do. What did you do? And then from here on out, what's your plan for the next 30 days? Knowing that you've got another storm coming on Tuesday. I don't understand why you've dragged your feet. The first thing I would do would be to open the catch basins so the water can transmit where it needs to go, either the Quinnipiac River or over to the cart station. Why do you look at the engineer, Vinny? You're the guy in charge, you're the guy with the shovels out there, you're the guy who's in charge of the lot. Don't be looking at him, because all he is a technical pencil pusher.
Right, but we
He's-
did our inspections together, not to interrupt you, Mr. Kern. And we did inspect the catch basins together, and we did come up with a plan.
And why hasn't the plan been submitted or implied yet?
Because they may be filled with some silt, but they're not. The flow of water is not stopped.
You got the catch basins full of mud, and you're saying it's not stopping the water?
There's sumps at the bottom of the sump, each catch basin. It's impossible that I put 2 feet of silt inside that catch basin to make that pipe stop flowing. That's all I'm saying. But I'm willing to do my maintenance, but I would like to be able to continue working on my site
What
because
did you
it
do
does
for the-
work.
What did you do for the last 30 days, though? And I don't.
I went over there, I cleaned the catch basin before a snow. I've been monitoring the rain. I have pictures of, I brought my payloader over there and cleaned out debris from over the catch basins that would not obstruct the catch basins anymore of any rain. I have
I
done
think
work.
this case, your engineer should have been in her office the day after the last meeting, because that's what's holding things up right now. Yes, sir.
I understand Vinny wants to start right away, but we're all here because he started right away the first time without doing what he was supposed to. The drains are filled, they haven't been cleaned. I went over myself and shoveled right after he did, but me shoveling at 73 years old, or Vinny, I don't know how old he is, and you're not supposed to ask today, but none of us want to do. You need professionals in there to clean the drains out and get ready for the next storm, and to let work proceed again until we're sure that what his expert says is right or mine's right. I don't care which one's right. If his is right, then fine. But we have the added factor, the police department adding water in. Everything should be considered by the peer review. Let him say, this is right, this is right, this is right, and let an expert come in and do it. It's done in a lot of other towns. I'll tell you, I'm dealing with it in another town too, where everything we do is reviewed, and I have to pay for it. So I don't know what the concern is. What's the big rush? At this point, let's fix what the damage is, get it all cleared up, get an expert in to tell us that the numbers are correct or they're not correct, or the silt fence is right or it isn't. That's, the only fair thing to do, to protect everyone.
Mr. Vitale, can Zach speak at all? Or
I'm sorry.
can Zach speak
Zach,
at
go ahead.
all of the reports or anything?
I can't hear you.
Nothing was said.
All right, go ahead.
The main thrust of this right now, and you continuing working, is the soil and erosion control. Is that correct, Aaron? To allow Mr. Panetta to keep working, Peretta, I'm sorry. Keep working, it's the soil and erosion control that needs addressing? Is there something else that needs addressing? And I don't mean the cleaning of the catch basins, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the wetland plan is messed up that we approved. That needs addressing. How that's going to be changed because of when Mr. Peretta went in there and altered the wetland. So we don't know what's going on with that yet.
You're done. You're done. You got to get in to work with her on it. She's got another item right now that's an
I do
issue.
have a thought, though, and just a thought, a minor superficial maintenance of his stream corridor. In other words, I don't mean in there with a bulldozer, I don't mean change the shape of it, but a tree here, a tree there.
No, he wants to get on 86 Barnes Road and continue his site plan approval work.
I understand that. I was talking, addressing this storm that's coming, and maybe he could just take a few trees, things out of that stream before the next storm. That's all I'm saying.
Well, so you haven't really answered my question regarding 86 Barnes Road.
I thought tonight, and maybe Zach still can, explain these trenches that he asked Vinny to do. He's done sort of sediment trenches. I've never heard of them, but he can explain the difference between a sediment trench and a temporary sedge trap. I don't know what the difference is. And also, Vinnie said berms. I guess that's a berm
Well, so
along the swamp there. I'm not sure where he put the berm, but that would hold. See, this stream, when it floods, it goes sideways. It goes north-south.
so you're not giving us anything, though. You're just talking about what he said and what this is. What are you giving us to function on? Another
Yes,
month
I'd
to
like
look at
to know-
everything?
Here's a question we haven't really, and I don't know if Zac even knows what I'm about to say. We haven't addressed when this stream floods, and it doesn't do it a lot, but when it does, that water goes to the south, spreads out, and comes into 86 Barnes Road, which is now opened up. It used to come into a field, but now it's not a field anymore. So now it comes into the dirt area. Now, it doesn't happen with every storm, just the big storms. No, that is one thing that was not addressed in the original permit.
Well, I think you've got to get your thoughts totally together and see where we're going with this. What is the recommendation to go, including Civil One's comments, their new plan? Am I wrong, Commission?
Well, okay, but I think it's important that they dug new test pits. The results are here in the spot of the infiltrator unit. I'm not saying they should go ahead tomorrow and put in the infiltrator unit, but that's important. They were asked to do that, and they did that.
And what's the result of it?
Maybe Zac can tell us.
No, I want you to tell us.
I looked at it. I took a glance at it tonight. I guess again
See what I mean?
today,
That
and it
report
looked
doesn't work.
it looked pretty good, like down to 82 inches or something, right, Zac?
Go ahead, Zach.
A lot of these questions, if I could just run through some quick findings, I think would answer these questions tonight. I mean, part of what this is, and I understand that we have the two properties, and that's partially the issue here, is there's overlap because of a shared owner. I'm asking for tops 5 minutes just to go through some stuff, just to point some things out and maybe help the commission be able to understand what has been done on site in terms of soil and erosion control measures that have been implemented, and what the measurable results have been thus far.
I'll accept the short presentation only because it's a cease and desist function going on here.
Thank you. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're all fairly well versed at this point. I'm going to jump right past this onto the next sheet. So what we have here, these are stormwater flows based on the topography of the site. The only portion of this site that is draining towards this channel is right here. Maybe a third of it is what's actually being directed here. Of that, most of it's directed down here into this low wetland area here that used to be where the channel went. Going back that 20 years when this was the Mezzi property, the channel crossed here at Barnes Road, meandered through a couple of squiggles and came around here, cut all the way through the cinema, and then up to where it is now crossing Route 5. Obviously, the cinema came in, that channel was taken, and you can actually still see right here where a little bit of depression there. You see these arrows coming in here. This is where the channel was rerouted in a very large arc to go. My understanding is when there was the issue 20 years ago, the current owner of 86 Barnes Road, Mezzi, was unwilling to do anything proactive. Mr. Peretta had to step up, and the best he could do was following the property line, which is why you see these very abrupt changes in direction as we go along here. Water doesn't like to change direction. It likes to keep going in a straight line. As such, we have right here where the channel used to be. We got this hard, almost 90-degree turn here. At this point, there's evidence that we had overtopping during this storm back on December 18th, and that would come up into the existing channel here that is these wetlands we have down here. The old channel is where it lived. So we've got Peretta, who at the time did not have his proper S&E controls in following the plan that was approved by town staff. So you get his soil being directed down here, being forced with this water coming in here, and we end up seeing what we saw right here with this little breach of Peretta and this added channel water popping out into the cinema's movie theater being directed at this this catch basin and this catch basin. Further down, we have two low spots in the bank, and this is where we had water from this overflowing here and here. But the root cause of this is all really coming down to right here where we had that obstructed culvert. And that obstructed culvert was in this condition when I found it on my January 4th investigation. Approximately 50% full. This is an oval pipe. It's not a camera distorting it. So we had this lodged in at the dead center, collected with twigs and leaves. This is right at that crossing between the movie theater and the cinema. This was all predicated on, or built up on, this old log right here that was directly across. As you can see at this point, I had cleared and pulled that debris out. I then pulled the log out because why would I leave a problem sitting there? This caused the backup in general because we have this channel has 3 large culverts that were sized in to cross North Main Street extension. It comes down to 1 culvert that is approximately the size of one of those pipes. That pipe was obstructed mostly. That's where you're going to be having your blockage. These pipes are typically sized for the 10-year storm. That's what had been previously done. We're now looking across the state to go more towards the 25-year storm sizing. So in that scenario, we still would have had a severely undersized pipe at this point creating ponding. And that's why you saw that all the soil, if I turn back, all the soil along the big lots being ripped off here is, as water comes down seeking its level, when it hits an obstruction, that's going to be where it's going to deepest fastest. And that's why we have the highest flow concentrations in that soil that's ripped off the edge of the banks that we saw in Miss O'Hare's reports. Why that's all right here, and in these locations we go farther up, we have less and less topsoil being ripped off these locations. Now, I'm not saying that Mr. Peretta is blameless in this. Obviously, the soil deposited in this region, 100% his. Not going to argue that fact at all. But the damages down here are not due to the failure at Peretta's property. The topography here actually kicks Peretta's property towards the movie theater before the channel, as it's currently graded. So in the situation where we had this overflow, we have the bare soil, and we don't have the S&E controls, we ended up with muddy water blowing
What's
past
there
the
now?
So, correct, getting there now. This is a blow up from my site walk markup. Presently, before we only had the silt fence along here and around the wetland that had been essentially pulled up with wind damage from that storm. Presently, we have silt fence extending the whole length down. The corner is reinforced with hay bales. We have from the high point here, silt fence continuing down to hook all the way up along Barnes Road to the construction entrance. Again, reinforced with hay bales at the low point. We have this natural channel here from this area that's shedding water this way. On the up gradient side of the construction entrance, we have the silt fence. The primary topsoil stockpile has been encased in silt fence. And then we have 3 erosion control trenches, which they're not as common, but typically the idea is that you dig these to collect and redirect water. They should be level so that when water enters them, your silts and fines are being slowed down by water flows to drop the silts and fines out of suspension into the channel. You then would have water essentially directed out the far end because you're going to be having water push in one side.
What did you do about the water when it breached that first 90-degree bend? Yeah, right in there.
That would require us to come in for additional permitting for the wetlands itself. Additionally, that is technically on Peretta's, not 86's. It's something that needs to be addressed, but that is larger than a failure of the S&E controls and what has been going on 86 property.
If the last storm had breached at that point,
correct. Yep.
What have you done to prevent it from breaching again?
That cannot be addressed from an 86 standpoint. That has to be addressed from 929.
Well,
It was addressed at the last meeting. It was one of the issues that we talked about that we wanted to have fixed. Where on your photograph there is the log? Was the log removed?
The log has been removed. The log is all the way up between job lots and the go-kart facility at that crossing.
So it sounds to me like you're pretty sure that this storm we're going to get on Tuesday night is going to have no impact on the cinemas. Are you your professional opinion? Is that what we could say? I'm not putting words in your mouth.
I would never say an absolute because I don't know what's going to come downstream from upstream or something and block a pipe. But if things operate correctly and it is below a 10-year storm, you would not see what we saw at the cinema. Almost as a point in fact to this, during January we had another sizable storm, not quite as large, after removing the pipe, and there was localized flooding between Moe's and the bowling alley, which had not previously occurred. As such, if the log wasn't the issue, we would have seen flooding at the movie theater again. But removing the log, we did not see that flooding.
That crossing is where the two parking lots connect?
Correct.
Yes. But I don't understand. You have this problem. You identified the breach in the brook. Yes, it happened to be not on 86, but you didn't address it. You haven't done anything with it. You didn't get a maintenance permit. You didn't get a maintenance issue. You didn't get part of trying to resolve it. I don't understand that. You didn't work close enough with Aaron, or Aaron didn't work close enough with you. But why you didn't repair that breach, I don't know. So which way is the silt fence? Is the silt fence keeping the brook in, or is the silt fence keeping the runoff from 86 to the brook?
The silt fence is keeping 86 from the brook and the movie theater property.
I can see that down in the tail.
Yes.
But when you get up to the top where the breach is, what are you going to do?
The same thing that I suspect has been happening, as I believe this has been feeding this wetland for years now. That was David Lord's assessment with this wetlands in the first.
But you're telling me that is where the damage to the cinema came from?
No, I'm saying the primary siltation is from that obstructed pipe. I'm saying the materials that exited 86 Barn Road were assisted by this. That yes, we've since fixed this. This was not in. Soil and erosion control from this, or soils from here, transmitted down along the silt fence down gradient into this lower area here, where whether it was just that storm itself, but I know it was assisted by this as well, adding water into it. And that's what caused the muddy water to exit 86 Barnes Road.
The muddy water coming from where?
From 86 Barnes Road.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I approach your table, please? Have you seen the videos of how this water was actually flowing? Because you can clearly see it coming over, not backing up from the culvert. And I would point out on his timeline, he's talking about removing the log on January 4th, and we didn't have the rainstorm until around the 14th. Okay?
We're looking at pictures. We might as well see that also. Well, show the three of us.
This is the back of Bobby's parking lot, where it's parallel, and this is upstream, the berm's running along here, so you can see the water just flowing down.
That's good.
From the channel. And then you can see the color of the water. And this is another one that shows the water coming down the hill. It's clearly coming from the completed self-storage area and not backing up through the channel, which is, the pipe is significantly lower than where we are here. Okay, and we also have, I won't bore you with all this,
Go
but we
show
have
the-
a
show the
video
rest
of
of the game.
the video of the dumpster floating away,
right.
so.
Where I'm saying is, yeah.
That was behind the cinema.
When? The second storm, the first one? First storm. Get their dates mixed up. I just think this is such a boggle here. Get straightened out with her. It's her she's going to do.
see how water from this. Right.
Mr. Chairman, if I speak again? Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Vinnie.
Yeah. I'm not laughing here, but.
I know.
But this is,
nothing to
you know,
do with it.
we have an outside engineer speaking more than my engineer that's trying to represent me. I understand there's an issue, but I think this is a little unheard of. I've never seen this before.
It's not that we don't trust your engineer. It's to the point of where we need somebody to represent us, to help guide us to do the right thing.
Right.
And I'm saying this personally, I'm disappointed in the last 30 days you didn't do more to rectify your neighbors to be happy so that you could continue. We could give you permission tonight. But now the discussion is, what do we do with you for the next 30 days? Do we let you give you back your shovel and go out and fix what's out there? Do we wait till Tuesday when the heavy rains come in and it overfloods the banks? What would you do, Vinny, if there's reverse here? What would you do?
I think with that last meeting, we did talk about the channel and removing some trees and stuff like that. And I think you had recommended that we do it, but you did recommend, or you questioned, do I do it without a permit, with the permit, go and do the work? You made you said, well, Vin, you've been doing this for 30 years, you know what you need to do. And then you looked over at Aaron and said, does he need a permit or not need a permit? I'm not too sure if that's what we're talking about, the repairing on the channel. I mean, do I go and apply for a maintenance permit tomorrow, and that's going to resolve the problem? One tree on a little crooked channel is not going to.
You're the contractor. You should be able to diagnose what it needs to be done out there. If you think that the trees that she's telling you to leave alone are causing this havoc, you should have gone back to her and said, Aaron, I'll meet you out there and show you these trees need to go. You've been in the business long enough to know what needs to be done to make it work.
I know we're most.
Easier said than done. I'm just not being facetious to you.
I know,
but to try to get things done sometimes with the
staff.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to maintain your composure, to do work correctly, and be fought tooth and nail sometimes.
Let me ask the movie theater. How many catch basins are you referring to? 1, 2 that have silt in them?
There's probably about 3 or 4 back there.
Is it 3 or is it 4?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
What if the commission likes this idea? If they get a vacuum truck in to vacuum out those catch basins, we'll let them continue with the cease and desist still in effect, so they can get straightened out with Aaron to get this thing back in line or where we is, because it's helter-skelter at this point. Jimmy, what do you think?
I don't think that's a bad, am I on here? I don't think that's a bad idea. I would like to just mention one thing that really hasn't even been mentioned, but it kind of shows up on that illustration there. Back when we got a whole set of photographs of the damages and everything that took place there, one of the things that really struck my mind was the source of the water that flooded across that whole area. And it hasn't even been mentioned at all that that drain right there on the road,
It's on.
right here, isn't there a drain right there, a catch basin?
Catch basin, yes.
Yeah, in the photographs that we received, that was clogged.
Use your microphone.
That was clogged, and there was absolute clear evidence that the water coming down this road was flushing over right there and filling it. Normally you don't have waters from the road flushing into a site, especially one that's been cut wide open. I believe that a lot of the issues came from that drain in the road being clogged, and all that was being conveyed down that road, which is quite substantial, was not being conveyed onto your property. The evidence is in those pictures. So you're talking about what's going to happen in the future. I would say if that drain is going to take water from the road as it should, the magnitude of issues on that site would be greatly diminished. There was a flush. Go back and look at those pictures for that drain, and you will see the flush of material that went into that site. One of the first things that came to my mind with this whole scenario, what is the source of water? It's not coming down from the sky on this site. It's coming from elsewhere in huge volumes. And right there, to me, was major evidence of what was filling this area. If that wasn't there, I don't think the damage would have been nearly as extensive as it is. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone mention, is that drain in the road now cleared?
That drain is clear. And across the street of the old Calgany mansion there, that catch basin currently is filled with silt in the road 20 feet past that catch basin, 20 feet before it, extending 4 feet in front of that catch basin is filled with silt. And every time it rains, puddles up, and with a heavy rain, it fills up.
Is the town putting new catch basins in North Main Street?
Yes, they
Are
are.
they going up that far
And I
up?
believe they are. I have not questioned or called the town on it for specific reasons, but I just want to make another point that if we're showing some pictures, and I would just like to just show you a picture from January 10th's storm of the flood down at Busillo and Route 5, which is at 2:10 a.m. in the morning. I'd just like to show you a quick picture, if I may.
Right around in the middle of the 90.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You gotta use the microphone, it's gonna be a problem. Yeah.
And this is the
Nobody's home.
flood.
All right. Let's get back to this. Are you in agreement to get a vac truck in to suck those catch basins out?
I have no problem doing that.
Okay.
But it's only gonna suck the sumps, right? You said that the water level's not restricted because
Your microphone,
With an inspection of myself and Zach, we did inspect them, and the sumps are full, but they're still
the-
below the pipes.
I ran into a guy in Meriden, Loman Sweeping, he's got vac trucks up there. All right. Yes, sir? And then we're gonna wrap this
Just
up.
going to, just 2 points. One is, I think your applicant here is still waiting on clear direction that it's okay to clean out the channel. I think that, if you gave him some certainty on that, that might be helpful.
Well, I think that's the next step. If we get the sumps cleaned out, and if he can continue working, I think by next month he'll be instructed to clean, well, what I'm hoping for, if he and his engineer get with Aaron and get all this detail straightened out, they can review the sediment control structure, which looked like it might be adequate on this, and they can get the breach halfway up the brook, they can get the cleaning of the channel out, we can get this thing resolved so there's some direction to it.
And the only other point I had, sir, was that if you are considering a third-party engineer, I'd ask you to consider SLR Group. Tom Daly was here earlier, and they do work, I think, for about 20 or 30 different municipalities. So they're quite familiar. They have a large staff, and they're a first-class outfit.
Well, I mean, she can have a name for it and see. Yes, Aaron?
Just a quick point. Last time, when we said, don't go so fast, they were eager to change that stream channel. And I said, slow down, because there's a whole science to the dynamics of flow. And I remember when we were approving BJ's, we had the NRCS flood guy in, and he said, leave those log jams in the river. I said, you want them to leave the log jams? He goes, sometimes you want it to go slow.
Yeah, I remember him too. We had the opportunity to rip wrap the whole brook along Lowe's, and they said, oh, no, don't do it. So I'm not sure I agree with 100% of their philosophy.
Certain trees, I'm saying critical trees, certain trees, yeah, get them out of there. But
Listen,
some
you-
trees make the water go faster.
You deal with it in the next 30 days, because the brook is restricted, and you're gonna put more water in that brook than you did yesterday. Tomorrow's gonna have more water. If you think one tree we're gonna save one tree and cut the flow down, it's not gonna benefit anybody. The roots holding the bank back,
No, I'm
I tell you the truth, I wish the brook would wash its way twice as big. Send it down to Quinnipiac.
But then it reaches the choke point.
What?
It reaches the choke point, but by the Cinema and Route 5. It's 30-inch culvert. It chokes down. That's that, and then we get the back flooding.
Well, then if you come up with a better idea, we'll hear it next month. Okay? You can't just say what's happened. We all know what's happened.
All right, then
Now we want to know what to do
My
to
other
fix it.
simple question was clarification, Zach or Vinny. Did you fix that breach, slope, whatever you want to call it, on 952? Some people call it 929, 950 North Main Street. Is that fixed now?
Technically a different application, but yes, it has been fixed.
All done.
It hasn't been fixed? Or?
No, it has been fixed.
But what about an application now you're talking?
So, no, I misspoke. That's a different agenda item, but that has been fixed.
Well, you got to spend some time over there, because I'm not going to spend 2 hours next month going through every line item trying to straighten out, understand what took place. I'll entertain a motion that basically says the applicant will vacuum out the sumps behind Wallingford Shopping LLC. We're not going to do the whole parking lot. We're going to do just the behind the property. And when those are completed, he can continue working on 86 Barnes Road, but the cease and desist order will still stay in effect. It's one of the conditions of the corrective measures.
So I asked you before about the North Main Street extension, the breach. You're telling me now that it is fixed. That washed, eroded bank has been repaired.
I believe you and I were talking about two different areas. Yes, it has been repaired.
Okay. And what did you do to rectify that so it won't happen again on Tuesday's storm if it comes in?
There was a pipe that was already in the ground from 20 years ago that had been covered over. We were able to excavate down, move some material, expose the pipe, clean the pipe that goes into our detention basin that's on 30 feet away. And the area of the slope that was eroded, we brought in material, seeded it, matted it, an area of 40 by 40. We have photos of the pipe.
That's
We have
fine.
everything.
Okay, so we're on the same path.
I'm going to need for you to reframe your motion. Would you your suggested motion, Mr. Chairman?
To repeat it?
Yeah, I'm a little confused by
Okay.
it.
I think Debbie has it written. Go ahead, Deb.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the applicant, Mr. Peretta, will vacuum out the sumps behind the property, and when this has been accomplished, he can continue to work on 86 Barnes Road.
He cannot, just as a administrative matter, he can't continue to work on 86 unless the cease and desist has been lifted. So if you want to act to lift it tonight,
Well, no, it can't be lifted, because there still has to be some issues there that aren't resolved.
right. So you're saying, and maybe next
So
month.
you want to change the cease and desist to cease and correct?
No, I'm suggesting that this is an incentive toward, maybe in March, lifting the cease and desist. Is that what you're thinking? If he does the vacuum pumping, he could look forward in March that you would lift the cease and desist order.
If he's going to vacuum them out, he wants to do them this month. He wants to continue this month.
Correct, but you have to remove his cease and desist, else he can't do anything till March 6th. And then you can remove it.
So if you remove the cease and desist now and leave the violation, we could hold the violation.
Well, you should bring up Janice's memo on cease and desist and everything. he's got to be able to fix the violation. And the violation was the breach in the water running. So the violation stays in effect, the cease and desist gets lifted. Jimmy, that makes sense to you?
You know, I'm not really sure.
Well, there's a memo from Janice that talks about it.
Right, in the 801.
Yeah, this is the opposite. I can't find.
5-gallon pail and a couple shovels, you could have those catch basins cleaned in a couple hours. You don't need to get a mud sucker.
We used to go down in there, shovel them out by hand.
In the olden days, that's how we did it. With
Yeah.
a rope and a pail, drop it down and scoop it out.
Yes.
I don't know what I did with it today. Here it is. What's this? Yeah, well, it's still, oh, this, okay. God damn it. No, I read the issue on that. Well, so we'll lift the cease and desist order then. Okay, so there's a motion made. If we second the motion and pass on it, then we'll vote on the cease and desist, rather than do it the other way around. What?
Okay, so we're throwing out, just to be clear, we're not asking him to do a better erosion control plan or phased erosion control plan or anything that Civil One asked for. We're not going to request that Mr. Peretta do that.
You may be, but you need to get it done. I mean, you have what they suggested. You've had time to get this thing straightened out. What you're suggesting is he's not going to do anything for another month. Is that right?
There are several violations on this property. I'm thinking maybe you,
So are they violations or are they cease and desist? How are you going to correct them?
would you like to see a more stringent erosion control plan phased, such as was suggested by Kurt Jones? Is that something the commission's interested in? You could ask for that tonight. You didn't specifically ask for that yet. You could direct that.
This is the problem with not having this stuff in before the meeting. This is the problem not having the reports due. I should cancel everything and make you go until next month. Because this is the issues that are at hand.
I understand your
You
frustration.
haven't got her straightened out, and we can't do anything without her basic approval or guidance.
Mr. Vitale, like I said before, sometimes getting things straightened out is not as simple. And matters can be done in 15 minutes sometimes, not 30 days. But to get to that 15 minutes of conversation, it's a hard task.
Then,
I'm asking that you lift the cease and desist. We continue. I do the catch basins in the back, okay? The violations are done, finished on 929 North Main Street Extension. The violations have been repaired. Those two issues are done. You're going to have no flow from over there. It's going to be retained on our property. And even when it did flow, it never did bring silt into the channel.
well,
So I'm asking to lift it so we can work.
I'm not going to lift it now. Now I'm, if you have a problem with that office, then you deal with that office in the municipality here in town. Because I can't.
Well, then there's no guarantee it's going to be resolved by next month either,
Then
sometimes.
you-
So we're
then you
going to
gotta
go
work
3-4 months.
Well, if she's looking, we're talking about a soil erosion control plan, they have their concerns. I thought I was heading in the right direction. She says.
I have my concerns for the police station too. I don't go up there and tell them to put a new soil and erosion control plan in place.
But they've got their own set of problems up there.
Yes, and we all are affected downstream.
That's,
You got proof of that?
You do have the
You can't talk without the microphone
I'd just like
and
to
the
say that.
name, address.
Hi, my name's Lisa Peretta. My address is 76 High Hill Road, Wallingford. But you really do have the authority to go ahead and lift it so that my husband can continue, Mr. Peretta, to work on the property, to adhere to everything that has been said unto him, and also has taken, I witnessed right before me that you folks are taking advice, which is great, from, you know, third-party engineers that spoke actually more than our own engineer, which that's fine. We don't have any issue with that. But we do have an issue with a third party coming in that is not from Mrs. O'Hare's recommendation. You know, with all due respect to Mr. LaFlamme, we're not privy to give any of our information out to a third party. That's actually a conflict of interest. We are permitted to do so to the town and also to whomever Mrs. Hare agrees upon to bring in for the research up on the top of the hill. And, you know, I call it the 100-acre woods because it's been a problem for a long time. So we are not in agreement with another third party taking place. And actually, I'm not sure if that's even legal right now.
Well,
That's
it doesn't-
going on
it
right
doesn't-
now.
it
There's
doesn't-
recommendations,
It
but,
doesn't make any difference.
well, it actually
It's tabled
does.
for next month until you get it resolved.
No,
first.
I understand that, but
Well,
next month will
this
be a
conversation is over.
continuation. Next month, sir, will be a continuation of things to find fault. And I'm not sure, you know, that it's, that, you know, is it really proper to uphold a man's work when he's trying to work and fix everything, though? Because we are met at every resistance level, which is fine. But nobody here would like it if somebody else came in and gave all their opinions, and you folks are all taking it verbatim. So we're not opposed to working with our engineer again, and who Mrs. O'Hare says, but we will not give our information or out. Mr. LaFlamme is welcome to be a part of this at every single meeting, but we are not going to be passing over our information, okay? That is not legal.
Okay. All right. The motion never got made, never got passed, or got made but never passed.
I'll withdraw it.
Withdraw the motion. Okay. So this, I suggest you get your problems resolved with Ms. O'Hare, and we will deal with this application hopefully next month with some kind of resolve. Okay? And anything else to come before the commission tonight?
We have to reaffirm all these?
What's that?
We have to reaffirm all these?
Reaffirm all the violations or cease and desists.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reaffirm all the notice of violations and the cease and correct and cease and desist orders.
A second.
Motion made second. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Yes,
Aye.
Jeff did. Everybody voted unanimous, yes.
Thank you.
Sorry to waste your evening.
The, anything else to come before us? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Commissioner, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
She missed it. I'll take
We
mine.
didn't vote. We have to vote.
Oh, yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Necchio was the seconder?